Nashville 2 podcast with your host, Edward Fox.
G'day, viewers and listeners. It's Ed Fox and Jerremy Newsome back for another great episode of Nashville 2. If you just watched the last episode, Jerremy and I got to talking and man, I got goosebumps. I got goosebumps because you don't know what your vehicle is going to be to get you to the wealth. And I think, Jerremy, what I want to start off with this one, you ended with a great story in our last episode where the path down the stock market wasn't the right path for this guy, but he crushed it when you directed him to a different path. And folks, you need to go back and listen to the other episode if you haven't to find out the rest of that story. How much do you think dealing with a mindset that doesn't allow a person to think that they deserve the wealth or they deserve the success, how much time do you think do you have to spend with some people on dealing with that?
It's probably the biggest component, because one of the things you mentioned about people who they're scared to become successful. And that only happens subconsciously. That's not a conscious thought. That's not a conscious thought like, oh, let me put on a red shirt today. Or, oh, I want to get blueberries for breakfast. A subconscious decision, they happen 4 million times a day. And so to tap into your fears, your hurdles, your objectives, your thoughts, your programming, where you learned the information and the topics and the beliefs you have around money, wealth, success, fame, fortune, all the cool stuff. All of that takes reprogramming, and it takes time, it takes energy, it takes effort. If you want something you've never had, you have to do something you've never done. That's a great example.
Hang on, say that again. Say that again.
If you want something you've never had, you have to do something you've never done. Example, if you're watching this or listening to this and you do not have $1 million, or you never have had $1 million, it is my belief that you are scared of it. If you want something and you do not have it, it's because you're afraid of it. Full stop, end of story. That's my current belief right now. And it makes a lot of sense, because if you truly wanted something, you would have it. In fact, everything that you have in life right now has all boiled down to how much you feel you deserve. It comes down to your standards and the standards that you set for yourself, regardless of when you set them and at what age you set them. If you feel that I deserve, this is all subconscious, right? This is the deep, deep, deep part of the brain. I deserve to be making $70,000 a year and have 2 vehicles and have a house and a wife and 2 kids and a dog. That might have been programmed in your brain when you were 5, 6, 7 years old. And if you never change that programming nor those beliefs, and if that's what you have right now, that's what you feel you deserve.
Right. So one of the things I did, I had been involved in a direct sales company back when I was 18. I had sold my business. We'd moved on. I got involved in a direct sales company. And one of the first things they did was say, write down your goals and your dreams and then put a date to it, right? And I did part of that. I wrote on 3x5 cards that, hey, I would like to have a property with a cricket field that I personally built that had a creek running through it. I would like an extended stay in the US. I think maybe a Lamborghini Countach that I thought I needed to own from the 80s. So, so this is probably 1988 that I write this down. I put a rubber band around it and I put it in a box, and I moved to America in 1990. And 2001, I find these stack of 3x5 cards. 2003. And so I pull them out and the rubber band splits, and I look at this first one that says, oh, I want to own a property that has its own cricket field. It's 2003, Wichita, Kansas. I've bought 15 acres in 2002, and I've built my own private cricket field. And I hadn't looked at this goal sheet since I moved in 1990, right? I didn't get the Lamborghini Countach, but I had changed to the Magnum PI Ferrari 308, right? As I aged a little bit. But I built this private cricket field. I think sometimes when we don't write down our goals and we don't accept that we can achieve them, that they're never going to happen, just like you said.
Yeah.
Mark Victor Hansen, Chicken Soup from the Soul Guy, with the Soul Guy. Have you ever met him? Did you ever?
I've never met him, but I've read the book. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things he says, he talked at an event and he said, what's the easiest way to get $1 million?
Help a
You
million
need
people.
$1 million. He said the easiest way to get $1 million is ask somebody for $1 million. He says, if you've got a billionaire that you can go up to and say, hey, I've got an idea, would you give me $1 million for it? He said, that's the easiest way to get $1 million. He says, now, if you can't do that, maybe you have 10 friends you can ask for $100,000. Maybe you have 100 friends that you can ask for, is it 10,000? I got my math wrong. Yeah. Maybe you have 1 million friends that you can ask for $1, right? That the money is out there. It is out there, and people want to invest in things that are going to be successful. So I have a lot of people come to me like, I want to start a business, but how do I know what's the right amount of money to put into a business? And I say, look, if it's not going to crush you, if you lose that money, then that's the right amount to put into a business. My son, who's the big dreamer, my middle child, he comes to me and says, Dad, I want to build solar farms all across Kansas. I said, dude, do you know how much money that's going to take? He said, I have no idea. I said, well, let's look at this. I said, why not think of a business that you can start with the money you either have or the money you can borrow and build up from there? So I tell people that if you have $1,000 and you can invest $1,000 in a business and it could change your life if it works, that's a good use of $1,000. And if you lose it, it's not going to kill you. But for some of us, we can put 1,000 in, we can put 5,000 in, we can put 10,000 in, we can put 50,000 in, we can put 100,000 in, depending on where we're at today. So when you evaluate businesses, Jeremy, do you do something like that? Do you look at, well, if this hits, it could change my life. Could I afford to lose that money if it doesn't hit? Do you do something like that, or do you take a different philosophy?
Dang, that's a good question. I would say this for a lot of individuals who are listening. I do think that risk is an extremely, extremely strong component of every business adventure. But one of the things that I get most excited about is this part of my dream. So when you mentioned that cricket field, I was not surprised. I was like, my man wrote it down and put it on a card. I was not surprised that you got it, because that was something that you loved, that you craved, that you really at your core wanted.
Folks, I'm showing a background now of the cricket field that I actually built in Kansas.
There we go. So you're so cool, dude.
You can check that video out on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. Anyway, so okay, so you're right. But one of the things I've focused on is managed risk, right? Yeah, not 100%. Stupid risk, not ridiculous. Yep. I mean, I'm probably not going to jump out of a perfectly good airplane, just because I want to go skydiving. It's not for me. Now, for those of you that are skydivers, great, enjoy it, have fun, no big deal. You've probably done that, Jeremy. You sound like you'd be a bit of an adrenaline junkie. Would that be true?
I have. But you're absolutely right. Still manage risk, right? I did it sober. I made sure that the parachute was in the bag. I made sure that someone else was on my back with me.
Right.
Managed risk. You're exactly right. And when you're evaluating businesses, do you like it? Are you motivated by it? Are you excited by it? And do you know the product? Can you add value other than just putting the money in? So if you are putting money into a business, fantastic. But besides that, is there anything that you actually do with it or for it? Is there a way that you can truly add value to that business? Another thing that I will absolutely find out is how scalable is this particular business? And I use scalability as a really easy metric, and I'll do it like this. If 100 people versus 1,000 people purchase that product, at what point does it break? So if you are a restaurant owner and there's a limited amount of seating in a restaurant, and if 1,000 people come to your restaurant, everything breaks down, your kitchen staff gets stressed out, there's not enough room, and everyone's pissed off and annoyed and has a bad time, I don't get into that business. But if there's a business where if there's 100 people using it or 1,000 people using it, there's really no difference at all, but the company just makes more money. Perfect example. Let's say that 100,000 people versus 1 million people listen to this episode. Does Ed have to do anything additional on the back end to support that amount of listens? And the answer is no.
Right.
Which is beautiful. So me investing into podcasts, me investing into software companies, me investing into things that can scale easily, those are something that I certainly will take into consideration when it comes down to risk in business.
Right. And thank you for sharing those, because that's exactly true. So I have some friends that have done online courses, right? I actually just had a guest on that wrote this book called Barternomics. Her name's
nice.
Debbie Sardone. I say she's a friend. I just met her, but after reading her book and then having her on the podcast.
Well, because you're a barter fiend. That's what you love to do, right?
I do, and I bought 2 barter exchanges. She is the number one. I wrote it down here. The number one residential cleaning business consultant in the world.
Wow.
Okay. So she has taken her cleaning business to above the $1 million level, and then now coaches others, because 95% of residential cleaners never make any money with their cleaning business. Right. And so she was able to put together a program and a system to teach. But she has an online course. She can scale that up. She can have 10,000 people take that course, and she doesn't have to do anything different. And she's just going to be making money.
Precisely. Those are some things I love to personally invest in, because I know how they work. I understand them really well. I've been in that business, and it's one of those things that where scalability is a big, big key. If making a lot of money is one of your goals, if helping a lot of people is one of your goals, scalability is also an amazing component. Because if you're able to help more people, again, just like this podcast, or that's why YouTube is so amazing. When Google bought YouTube, I mean, this was like 6 years ago, they bought it for, and I'm gonna mess up some of the numbers, but let's just say 30 billion.
Right.
That's how much YouTube makes quarterly now.
Yeah.
And again, it's because the more people that watch one particular video, that doesn't really cost Google anything extra, right? They're just building storage space.
Right.
It's a fascinating business. And when that happened, that's when I was like, man, buy a lot of Google. I think Google's going to be here in 10 years. They own the internet. They own the number 1 search engine in the world, Google, and they own the number 2 search engine in the world, YouTube. So if everyone's traffic is going there, I bought a bunch of Google, and that investment worked out pretty well.
Yeah. So I like to focus on businesses. You do a lot of stuff, and you've helped a lot of people become successful with the stock market. So if somebody is looking, where do they start? Where would you start them if they have dealt with some of their issues about it's okay to make money?
Yeah.
Okay, so actually I'm going to take a different tangent here for a sec. Hold that thought. People misunderstand, and we'll talk about barter for a second. People misunderstand. It's not the money that they want. They think it's the money. It's not the physical money that they want. It's what the money can provide. Okay. We help people. We make money to be able to help others. We make money to be able to help our family. Unfortunately, when I go into the grocery store and walk out with a sack full of groceries, with a bag full of groceries, the grocery store wants to get paid.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't need the American dollars or the greenbacks or whatever you want to call. I don't need that money other than because Kroger wants it. That's the grocery store in our area, folks. So I take that money. It's just a medium of exchange, and I give it to them. I want the things that they give me. Right.
It's such a good mindset shift, Ed. I mean, it really is. It's not the money. It's what it provides, what you said. And I would say to the exact same thing. It's not the money, it's the feeling, right? It's right. What you're trying to get. And you think that money might bring that, and it very well could or will, but money does not solve all of your problems. There's a lot of individuals that feel like, oh, if I get more money, my relationships problem go away. My wife will love me more.
More money, more problems. More
right?
Money, more problems.
But money does solve all of your money problems.
Right. Right.
And if you got 99 problems and 96 of them are money related, you can work on the other 3.
Right. I've always said, yeah. So I'm Christian. I have a lot of Christian friends. Oh, money, the love of money is the root of all evil. I don't love money. I love what money can do for the community. I love what money can do for the life of other people. And so there's nothing wrong. I would rather be a prosperous Christian than a poor Christian, because I believe my talent is the ability to help more people if I have money, not for me. But
Amen.
If I don't have money, then there's not a whole heck of a lot, because I have to keep working that job,
That's
right?
right.
Which
That's
keeps
100%
us
right.
just over broke. It's like a grave with the ends knocked out. Home to work to home, home to work to home, home to work to home. And we dig that rut so deep we can't look over the top to see that we're worth more than what a job can give us, right? And that's why I love about owning our own business, whether that's trading stocks and bonds, whether that's having rentals, whether that's having a retail business, whether it's having our service business, whatever it is, when we can duplicate the results through utilizing other tools, why would you work a job? A job is a great way to get some money to then do something different.
I love that. I want to drop some knowledge on some listeners really quick. Something that changed my life dramatically about, really, it was a year ago in February. I was working with a pastor named Dr. Billy Alsbrooks, and him and I were doing some one-on-one work in down in the British Virgin Islands. And it was about when you mentioned you'd rather be a prosperous Christian. 1,000% agree with you, first and foremost. Secondly, if we all sit down for just a moment, I want us to think about how wealthy and rich Jesus was.
Right.
Not rich in the kingdom, nothing like that. I'm talking about monetarily rich. Because a lot of people get some scriptures twisted for a second. They just kind of forget. They forget that Jesus himself was also very, very extremely wealthy. First and foremost, what was the job, Ed, of Judas? Do you remember?
No.
So Judas Iscariot, was the money carrier for Jesus.
He had his own money carrier. He had a person to carry money for him.
My boy had someone. He had so much money that he had to have someone carry it for him. Now, first and foremost, that's amazing, right? That's an extreme amount of wealth. But what it also shows you is Jesus wasn't saying no. When someone was offering him money, he wasn't like, no, thank you. I'm just, tell it to the big guy upstairs, I love you tons. It wasn't like that. It was, thank you. He knew how valuable he was. There was a passage about a young girl, a teenage girl dying, and her dad asking Jesus to come and resurrect her daughter. It's one of the miracles in the Bible. And Jesus resurrected his daughter after she was dead, I think 2 or 3 days, as the story goes. And that father was so grateful that he gave Jesus his life savings, and Jesus accepted it. So I want some of your listeners to really let that sink in for a moment. Jesus accepted the life savings of a man because, first of all, he knows that man will get it back because money is easy. But secondly, it allows the man to know the value and the worth of his daughter, her life, and it allows Jesus to exchange. Because if you stop receiving, if you continue to say, no, I don't want the money, that's going to create a subconscious block in your mind. And if you're always saying no to other people's money, it's going to get harder for the money to get there. It's like taking a water hose and putting it in half, right? It's going to make it harder for the water to flow. One final note on this. Towards the end of his life, when Jesus was, I believe, on the cross, there were 2 Roman guards that were gambling over something. Do you remember what they were gambling over, Ed?
His robe.
His robe. Now, why would Roman guards, who get paid really well, by the way, right? This is the greatest empire in the world at the time. Roman military men gamble over a trespasser, treacherous, murderous, like criminal. Why would they gamble over criminals' clothing?
Must have been something pretty cool.
Bingo, man. Right. They were extremely expensive clothing.
Yeah, it wasn't a Walmart or a Goodwill cloth or a piece of cloth. This was probably high. I was trying to think of a high-end brand, but I don't want to mention any of them. But, it's an Yves Saint Laurent or a Gucci equivalent.
Correct.
So, and folks, listen to me. When Jeremy and I talk, sometimes the ideas going on our head and the words that come out our mouth, you're not going to understand what our heart says. Folks, if you disagree with what we're talking about money and Christians, that's okay. You know what? We can disagree. Yeah. We can have different opinions. That's totally fine. I have learned so much from listening to other people that I don't agree with. Don't
I
agree
love
with
that.
them.
Love
But
that.
they can still share ideas. I moved my mindset on a lot of different things by listening to people I don't agree with that made good sense. Now, me, I don't make good sense. You want to listen to Jerremy. Jerremy makes good sense. You need to listen to him more. So I was talking to a good friend of ours the other day, Tony Bradshaw, right? Yep. And Tony said to me, he said, if God gave you, I wrote it down, so I'm looking down at my notepad. He says, if God gave you more money, what would he have you do with it? He said, until you know how to answer that, he's not going to give you more money. Now,
a blessing too early is a curse. You nailed it.
Let's take money out of there, right? Let's take money out of there. If God showered me with more love from my spouse, more love from my kids, more business opportunities, better acknowledgement at work. If those things are coming to you, what are you going to do with them? So you can forget about the money. If the money worries you or bugs you out, you can think about it in, if my kids came and loved on me more, what would I do with that love? I'd give it right back, right? I'd give it right back to them. Or I could love on other people because of the love and the affection that I am getting, that God has given me and my blessing. Anyway, so just utilize what we say in a way that works for you. You do you. Be authentic to yourself. Unless you're a serial killer, then don't be that. Change, right?
100%.
Good point. So, okay, we got off on a tangent, but that's okay. Somebody out there needed to hear that.
That's right. I agree.
Do you have any live events coming up, or you got anything on the horizon that you're doing that we need to mention? Now, this won't come out for maybe 4 or 6 weeks, so don't have it be next week because that won't work.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. But I do have a lot of things coming down the pike. I always do, man. I think the most timely for a lot of your listeners will be a day trading retreat in Orlando, Florida. If anyone here is interested in day trading, learning more about it, we have an extremely very high integrity. There's no sales pitches. It's just very, very educational based. It's in your face on the computer. I'm there helping you press the right buttons, helping you learn how to use your platform, helping you navigate the markets in real time. It's going to be in Orlando the 3rd week of May. So it's not extremely far away, but pop over to my website, reallifetrain.com, and you'll see in the events page, just kind of scroll down. It'll be all over the website, but cool. Check out that for some of your day trading information. It's going to be a really, really great program.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Jerremy. You know what we didn't do? We didn't do your hidden gems from the last episode. So folks, if you missed the hidden gems, Jerremy and I got into it and we just didn't think about it. So what do you like to do around Middle Tennessee? Either somewhere fun to eat, somewhere fun to go listen to music, maybe somewhere. What are you doing around Middle Tennessee when you're not working?
I love 2 places. Specifically, I live right next door to Radnor Lake.
Okay.
So Radnor Lake is an incredible, super pristine. There's no cell phone service there. It doesn't work, so don't try. It's an incredible nature reserve. State park, beautifully kept. Really nice hiking trails. It goes around a beautiful lake. Anyway, check it out if you haven't. I actually met a few people who live in Nashville, never been to Radnor Lake. So if you're one of those people, make sure you get over there. Percy Warner, you can find, there's like a 90% chance that if you are at Percy Warner or Radnor Lake, you will see me. If the day is beautiful.
What do you like to do on the lake? Are you a paddle boarder? Are you a kayaker? Are you a swimmer? What do you do? All 3?
That particular lake is fully closed off to human touch. So I walk around it or run around it.
Oh, okay.
There's a nice little running trail around that particular lake. There's some really, really good hiking trails as well with some pretty decent steep climbs. But yeah, man, I love running. Absolutely. If there is a lake or, Percy Priest Lake, love going out there, kayaking, fishing, boating, jet skiing is fun, okay. Wakeboarding, all kinds of outdoor activities, man. I'm a big fan of that.
You got any more books coming up?
I do actually. The next book is going to be called Master Yourself, Master the Markets, Real Life Trading Psychology. And then the one after that, which will probably launch early next year, is going to be called Getting Rich is Really Easy.
Getting rich is really easy. See, you challenge people, right? You challenge their thinking. Are you a Kiyosaki fan or not a Kiyosaki fan?
I do. I like Robert. I don't like him. I don't like his stock predictions a lot of times, but I do like a lot of what he's created. Right. He's an amazing, amazing, generous man.
It's scary for me how many people I run into that have still not read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Oh, wow, I've heard of that. I've heard of that, but I've not read it. So folks, I pitched this last one, but this is a lot of fun. There's a lot of stuff you can learn. And if you don't read pages, the best way to read a book, and I'm a bookaholic, right? So I love books, but my dad wouldn't read How to Win Friends and Influence People. That book was written back in 1936. My dad wasn't a reader. And my next guest is here. Diana's here. Oh, she left. Okay. Yeah, people do that to me a bit. But I started ripping a page out of How to Win Friends and Influence People and giving it to him. And I said, Dad, just read that. Just read that. And my mom's like, don't tear up the book. I said, the book is worthless if it sits on the shelf and you never read it. It's worthless. And we were taught not to destroy books. But for me, a paperback that I could buy for a couple of bucks from the used bookstore, rip out a page and read it, that's the way. How do you eat an elephant, Jeremy?
One bite at a time, baby.
One bite at a time. Thank you very much. Jeremy, thanks for being on the show. Love you lots, and we'll connect.
You're amazing, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the Nashville 2 podcast with your host, Edward Fox.